Dear Rovio Entertainment, that's right, we're doing this, a video on Angry Birds. We're going back to the past to play the games that nobody thought were a big deal when they came out and ended up making bazillions of money. Just all the money. It's been 20 years. Wait, no. Is that right? Has it been 20? No. Stupid. 10 years later, and yeah, I'm doing a video on Angry Birds, and it's all because of Reddit user Pigopper Games, who asked me how exactly you would make a pig explode using a bird. So, yeah, let's do it! Let's find out how to blow up some pigs using birds! This is gonna be a classic episode. I feel like I kind of need that after my last two. Okay, so bird goes in slingshot, you pull the slingshot back, fire it, bam, pigs and buildings die. We've got a lot of fun factors to take into account here, so let's just get started. Okay, so a quick recap of Angry Birds lore here before we get started. Some pigs stole some eggs from some birds, presumably to eat them, which they never really do. Anyway, the pigs are hiding in fortresses, and the birds, now angry due to their eggs being stolen, are on a self-destructive warpath to either get their eggs back or at the very least make the pigs pay severely. They do this by loading themselves into massive slingshots and launching themselves at the pigs, turning their very bodies into weapons, and that is essentially it. And just with that tiny bit of information, there's actually a lot of questions that get raised. What are the size of the birds? How heavy are they? How fast are they going? How do they knock down walls? Why don't they just use their air superiority just to get their eggs in RUNNOFT? What the frick is that slingshot made out of? And even if you had a ballistic object heavy enough, would it be capable of accelerating it fast enough to get an object up to wall and pig demolishing speeds? For our purposes, we're going to be focusing on the very basic red bird, which is essentially just a cannonball that wreaks destruction through pure kinetic energy. It's launched into the air, travels, hits something, and the speed and mass associated with it is imparted into whatever it hits, and these are the main things that cause damage. So, our first task is to figure out roughly how much this bird weighs, because that's pretty much the only way we're going to be able to figure out if it has any chance of doing the things that we see in the game. We're going to have to make several assumptions, so bear with me here, but it seems to me that, looking at the sprites, that the red bird is about the same size, roughly, as the pig. So that's a good start. So we're gonna compare the bird to the pig to get a rough comparison, right? Well, I mean, kinda. It turns out that the term pig is extremely unspecific. A pig is, apparently, any animal in the genus Sus, and although as much fun as it is to say that pig is sus, I think it's actually pronounced Sus, although if I were evil, I'd make Tanya make an Among Us pig sprite combo, but I'm not gonna do that. Anyway, where was I? Oh, right, pigs! So, in the genus Sus, there are 10 species of pig. What's more, there are over 80 varieties of domestic pig alone. To simplify our pig math, we're gonna have to breed our own pig variety. We'll just take them all, just every single one, and just breed them together into some sort of genetic amalgamation, the Sus Scientia. We can take the average weights of all known pig varieties and species and just mush them together for one average size, right? So I crunched the numbers, and it seems like, on average, among all the Sus genus, pigs weigh, on average, 179 kilos, or 394 pounds. That is tremendously heavy. That's the size of a small horse, and more than a freaking lion. So yeah, boars are no joke, and ignore them at your peril. So we have a 179 kilo pig. Is there any bird that even remotely compares to this? Well, actually, yes, and you're probably not going to be surprised to learn that there actually is only one bird that comes even remotely close, and it's the ostrich. Specifically, the common ostrich, Struthio camelus, which averages at about 100 kilos and tops out at about 150-ish, which, as you'll notice, does indeed fall short. But supposedly, legally according to avian medicine principles and application in Chapter 48, the chapter on ratites, which is the science word for large flightless birds like ostriches and emus, they can reach over 200 kilograms. So, in theory, an ostrich could reach 179 kilograms. So, boom! Chonky ostrich, we got it. Okay, part 1 complete. Congratulations are in order. We did it, you guys, and now it is time for the hard part. So now we have to figure out, like, how on earth you even obliterate a pig. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I said obliterate for a reason. I'm not sure you can actually pop or explodify a pig feasibly by launching any bird at it at any speed that wouldn't somehow make the bird turn into a burning ball of plasma, but we're gonna get close enough. We're gonna shoot this bird from a slingshot so fast that it tears completely through our pig. In order to increase the chances of success here, we're going to presume that our ostrich is impacting at the thinnest cross-section of the pig, which is going to cause maximum damage with minimal energy. That'd mean hitting it from the side, right in the middle. We're just going to draw a simple circle here so we can know what we're dealing with. This is our target. If you look at the skeleton of an Among Us pig, they'd only have like one ham bone in the middle of their bodies, but if you look at a real pig's cross-section, you see this. This right here is a pig skeleton, and this is our target, the impact zone. As you can see, we have a bunch of complicated things to consider. We have some bones, mainly the spine, and some ribs, and a whole lot of meat, which, whew, let me tell you, is the one thing I spent forever reading about. I'll spare you all the studies and books I went through trying to find the solution to this problem. Well, almost all of them. I would be remiss if I didn't share this one with you because it is freaking hilarious. Selection of an objective test of wiener texture by sensory analysis. Just excellent. Mwah! Anyway, after looking around for what seemed like an eternity, I finally found this beauty. The effects of slaughter weight, breed type, and aging on beef meat quality using 2 different texture devices. Now, we don't have time to get into the details of this paper because they're ultimately not what we're looking for. Actually, it turns out that I spent probably 5 to 10 more hours reading about the compressibility of meat in relation to texture, which I didn't need to do. My past week has basically been papers I didn't need to read. It's just hours wasted. That's okay. I'm not bitter, just very, very tired. But not all is lost, so let's keep going. On the most basic level, we need to find a way to break this pig. And given that the pig is mostly meat and flesh, we mostly have to consider breaking the meat. Break, in this case, is an engineering term, meaning essentially to apply so much stress and strain to something that it undergoes complete and total material failure. Consider taking a bar and bending it. If you only bend it a little bit, apply minimal stress, will just bounce back to its original shape when you let it go. This is what's called elastic deformation. If you, however, apply even more force when you let go, it might not actually go back to the same shape. This is called strain, and it causes an inelastic deformation. And if you're like Superman or something and apply a lot of force to the bar, it will just straight up break. Probably in the middle. This is what we call a catastrophic failure. There are a lot of axes of failure for a given material, and since I was launching one solid thing at another thing at speeds likely to be super fast, I thought that the axis of failure would be due to compressive forces. There's a few problems with that. The compressibility of meats and organs hasn't been sufficiently studied in a way that's actually useful to me in this context, and technically, when our ostrich makes contact with our little piggy here, it's gonna be technically bending the pig, which is actually much more complicated. Bending strength is an independent, or rather amalgamated quality of a material, because at the very least, it requires a combination of compressive forces here, tensile forces here, and often shear forces somewhere along the length, it's very complicated stuff. And having already sunk 20 hours into this problem, and given the fact that this entire scenario is ridiculous, we're going to be sidestepping that entire complexity because it is essentially a waste of our time. Instead, we're going to be using the tensile strength of our pig because it turns out that muscles are more likely to tear and fail while under tensile forces. And when our ostrich runs into the pig, it is going to be stretching out quite a bit. This means that our failure point is here, the center of the pig, in a straight line through the body, since stress is measured using a single flat plane and surface area. To save ourselves some headache, we're just going to presume that our pig is perfectly round and has a circle for our flat plane, which, I mean, yeah, that checks out given the pigs in the game are actually totally round. But now we need our dimensions, which is where our first finally useful paper comes in, Dimensions of the Modern Pig. Researchers in 2018 just measured a bunch of pigs and recorded the data. And you know what? This is precisely what we need. With one small problem, they only measured pigs up to 120 kilograms who fall a whopping 59 kilograms short of our Sus scientia's mass. That's a whole 130 pounds, which, believe it or not, is actually an incredibly specific weight that has its own SI unit. No, I'm serious. It's called the Austin before he had a child unit of mass. Gotta thank the scientific community for that one. Thankfully, using a bit of math magic, I can use interpolation to extend this graph since it seems to be following a predictable curve. It's imprecise to be sure, but hey, we're talking about blowing up imaginary pigs with imaginary ostriches here. We are solidly within the realm of imprecision and wild assumptions. Come with me, then you'll see a land made of pure wild assumptions. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't even remember the lyrics to that. That was awkward. Given the mass of our Sus scientia of 179-ish kilos, that means our pig should have a width, that's the length measured from shoulder to shoulder, of 40.39 centimeters. We're going to be using this as the diameter of a circle running through the pig so we can get our tensile strain surface area. At 40.39 centimeters, this gives our plane of stress a surface area of 0.1281 square meters. Now, I'm taking what we learned from structural and mechanical changes in raw and cooked single porcine muscle fibers extended to fracture, which is at the tensile failure point of pork tissue is about 2.52 kilograms per square centimeter or 247,000 newtons per square meter. We finally have all the information we need in order to figure out how fast we need to launch a 179 kilogram ostrich at a pig in order to snap it in half, or honestly, probably pulverize spectacularly. 247,000 times 0.128 square meters is 31,686.5 newtons of force. Let's toss on an extra 10,000 in order to make sure the bones snap too, bringing us up to 41,686.5 newtons. It's a little rule of thummy, but this video is already getting too long. If we charitably presume that all 179 kilograms of bird land squarely on this pig, it would have to have an initial impact velocity of 137 meters per second in order to deliver this force. Bare minimum. That is no joke, over 300 miles per hour, almost 500 kilometers per hour. And you know what? I had like all this math and all these graphs with initial launch velocities that would be required if we factored in air resistance to establish like pig snapping kill zones at various distances. But you know what I realized? It doesn't even matter. Why? Because it's not just about having a bird going 300-ish miles per hour. You have to get it up to that speed first. Comparing the average length of an ostrich torso to the width of an angry bird, I turned that into a pixel meter ratio of 25.64 in order to figure out that our little bird is accelerating over just about 3 meters when it launches. This means that, at 179 kilograms, accelerating up to 137.11 meters per second would require an acceleration rate of 2,802 meters per second squared. squared. With 179 kilos, that's 501.9 kilonewtons of force, over 285 Gs. For context, that's the max thrust output of a General Electric GE90 turbofan engine, the kinda engine that lifts Boeing 777s in the air. All of that force concentrated on this tiny little ostrich body. For a brief moment, it would be like our ostrich weighed over 100,000 pounds. In short, just launching this thing to its required speed for pig destruction at point-blank range is a recipe for ground-up ostrich meat, gristle, and bone. This is so much energy that it would be able to power 88 Game Boy Pockets for their entire 10-hour runtime. This ostrich, at the moment of release, could power 885 hours of Pokemon Red. Just launching this thing whole would be impossible, and no slingshot would be able to do it. Nothing with any conventional materials like rubber or wood would even come close. And even if it could, the instant it left the slingshot, it'd just be a bunch of raw bird chunks flying through the air, which is, as you might imagine, not very aerodynamic, meaning that it would slow down a lot faster than it would normally, meaning that the only way you could really split a pig in half with an ostrich is to put it right in front of the slingshot so that all the pieces could hit it before they went flying into nowhere. That said, I think this bird would still have a pretty impressive fatal distance. You wouldn't want to be anywhere near this thing, probably not at least within a football field's distance away, because all it would take is a stray bone shard hitting you at 120 meters per second to totally ruin your day. So, I'm sorry to say, Pig Opera Games, but launching a bird at a pig with the energy required to make it pop is sadly probably impossible. Although killing one is still on the table. I don't recommend, though, that you try to wrangle an ostrich into a slingshot. Animal rights violations aside, they are notoriously difficult to shepherd and have extremely dangerous claws that they will use to lash out at you in an attempt to disembowel you. So I guess technically, the best way to possibly end a pig's existence using a giant bird is to just get the ostrich really mad and leave it alone together in a room with a pig. Please don't do that. Sincerely, Austin. And I have to put out a personal thank you to my patrons who make this show possible, especially those of you who give it the highest level. I'm talking about Mars the Man, Miss Kendra, Ronald Coleman, Alan Hagers, EditAMTP, Nicholas Bellinger, Marissa Resnick, Nick Patterson, and Loretta Mazer. You guys frickin' rule, and I hope to see you next time. I need to take a nap. This one was really tiring for some reason. Whew! How long was I in there? 45 minutes! Oh, God!